What neither Angela nor Dominic knew was that Marcus had succeeded in his sinister plan. In the early hours of the morning, while they lay unconscious and vulnerable, he had quietly entered the suite with his camera. The photos he took were explicit, damaging, and perfect for his blackmail scheme. Marcus sat in his office later that morning, scrolling through the images on his camera with a satisfied smirk. "Perfect," he whispered to himself. "The mighty CEO brought low by a village girl. The board will have no choice but to remove him when they see these." But Marcus was cunning. He didn't plan to release the photos immediately. Instead, he would wait, let the rumors and whispers build naturally, then strike when Dominic was most vulnerable. He saved the images to multiple devices, making copies, preparing for the perfect moment to destroy Dominic's career and reputation. "Soon," Marcus muttered, locking the photos in his secure folder. "Very soon, you'll learn what happens to those who think they're untouchable." These photos would become a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode at the worst possible moment. Marcus held the power to destroy both Angela and Dominic whenever he chose to use it, and he planned to savor that power until the time was right. Caroline was somewhere in the hotel, crying into her pillow and realizing she had become the very thing she'd once promised to protect Angela from: a betrayer, a destroyer of dreams, a person who chose her own survival over love. Word spread quickly through the hotel. Some staff said Angela had seduced the CEO to get ahead. Others whispered about village girls who want to climb. Angela was summoned before the hotel HR. As she waited, trembling, she saw Caroline in the hall, but her old friend would not meet her eyes. Instead, Caroline joined the others in mocking Angela behind her back. Angela's heart broke. She felt as if she was drowning, her dignity stripped away in front of everyone. But through every insult, she held her silence. She needed her job, needed to keep sending money home. She refused to explain, to beg, or to cry in front of her enemies. Inside, she promised herself, "They can shame me, but they will not defeat me." Soon after, Angela faced an even greater trial. She was falsely accused of stealing a wealthy guest's wallet. Mrs. Obioma, with the help of a few loyal staff, planted the missing wallet in Angela's cleaning trolley. Management threatened her with immediate dismissal and even police action. Other staff laughed openly, eager to see the village girl punished. Angela was terrified, unable to defend herself. She felt truly alone for the first time. As she waited for security, Dominic appeared, demanding a full review of hotel records. When the CCTV was checked, the truth was revealed. Angela was innocent, and the real thief was exposed. Dominic cleared her name, but the damage to her reputation lingered. She returned to work with her head bowed, every step feeling heavier than before. Yet the bullying only worsened. Mrs. Obioma, furious that her plot had failed, became even more cruel. One evening, she ordered Angela to move heavy supplies into the hotel's industrial cold room, then locked her inside and left her there overnight. Shivering, alone and near collapse, Angela prayed for strength. Her mind drifted to Mama Obi's frail voice, to Caroline's broken promise at her mother's grave. "Is this how it ends for me?" she wondered, fear clawing at her heart. Hours passed in darkness and cold. Angela thought of home, of the tiny family compound, of the land her relatives had taken from her after her parents died. She remembered the hunger and shame, the laughter of neighbors, the gentle strength of her grandmother. At last, just before dawn, Dominic and a junior staff member discovered her. They rushed her to the staff clinic, where she sobbed uncontrollably, the walls she had built to survive finally breaking down. Angela spent some days recovering in the staff clinic, her body slowly warming and her strength returning. Dominic, shaken by what he saw, sat beside her bed. For the first time, Angela felt truly seen. "You did not deserve this," Dominic said softly. "I promise, you are safe now." As Angela healed, she realized something had changed inside her. She was still afraid, still uncertain, but she was no longer willing to let others decide her worth. She rose from her hospital bed with new determination, knowing she could not count on anyone but herself and that her story was far from over. Angela recovered slowly from her time in the cold room. The staff clinic felt both safe and lonely, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead. Each day she grew a little stronger, but something inside her had changed. The experience left a scar, not just on her body but deep in her heart. She realized she could never allow herself to be a victim again, no matter how much the world tried to break her. As Angela prepared to return to work, she promised herself that her dignity would not be taken from her, no matter what came next. The hotel resumed its usual rhythm, but for Angela, nothing felt the same. She could sense the whispers that trailed her through the hallways. Some staff looked at her with pity, others with resentment. Mrs. Obioma seemed to avoid her gaze now, but Angela remained cautious, knowing better than to let her guard down. One morning, a formal announcement was made in the staff break room. The CEO, Dominic Arinzi, recognized Angela's perseverance and promoted her to assistant manager of housekeeping. The room erupted in a mix of surprise, jealousy, and quiet applause. Some congratulated her, but most only grew more bitter. Angela, standing in front of her colleagues, felt a strange mix of pride and fear. She accepted the position with humility, promising to continue working hard. But the promotion brought new problems. Angela's old friends became distant, and Caroline, once her closest companion, barely spoke to her except when forced to in front of others. The other cleaners began to sabotage her work, spilling cleaning supplies, misplacing her reports, and spreading new rumors about how she must have caught the boss's eye to rise so fast. Angela felt alone again, isolated by success, but she kept reminding herself of her goal: take care of Mama Obi, send money home, and survive. The weight of responsibility grew heavier. Sometimes at night, Angela would sit on her narrow bed, hands trembling, wondering if it was all worth it. She longed for Caroline's support, but their friendship was gone. The old warmth was replaced by silent competition and a cold distance. The trouble began when rumors started spreading about what happened at the party. Marcus, still holding his damaging photos, began dropping hints among the hotel board members about the CEO's inappropriate conduct. Word reached Dominic's mother that her son had been found in a compromising situation with a staff member. Mrs. Arinze was horrified. The family's reputation, the business partnerships, the upcoming merger with international investors, everything was at risk. She stormed into Dominic's office, her face pale with worry. "Dominic, people are talking. They're saying you were intimate with one of the cleaners. Do you understand what this could do to our family name? To the business?" Dominic, still struggling with his fragmented memories of that night, felt overwhelmed with guilt and confusion. "Mother, I don't remember clearly what happened. I was drugged, confused. Drugged or not, if this scandal breaks publicly, we're finished. The board is already asking questions. Our investors will pull out. We need to control this situation immediately." That's when Dominic's mother made a desperate decision. "We need to find this woman, whoever she is, and manage this properly. If you're going to be linked with someone, it needs to be someone respectable, someone the family can accept. We'll say she saved you from a dangerous situation. We'll make her a hero, not a scandal." Dominic, desperate to protect whoever had been with him that night and riddled with guilt, agreed. "She left a bracelet behind. It's silver with blue beads, traditional Nigerian design. Whoever she is, she was kind to me. I want to thank her properly, maybe help her." His mother's eyes lit up with opportunity. "Perfect. We'll say she rescued you from thieves who drugged you. Yes, that's the story. Find this woman and we'll arrange everything properly. A respectable courtship, maybe even marriage. It will turn the scandal into a love story." Unbeknown to them, Caroline stood hidden behind the office door, her heart pounding as she pressed herself against the wall, drinking in every word of their desperate conversation. Her mind raced with possibilities as she realized this could be her golden ticket out of poverty and shame. The announcement went out to all hotel staff. The CEO was searching for the mysterious woman who had saved him during a security incident. There would be a substantial reward, a promotion, and the family's eternal gratitude. Angela, hearing this announcement, felt her heart shatter. Her trembling hand went to her empty wrist, where Mama Obi's precious bracelet used to rest. The silver chain with blue beads her grandmother had given her, whispering, "This will protect you, my child." She rushed to her locker, praying desperately, but found it empty. Her bracelet, her grandmother's blessing, her only proof, was gone. Angela collapsed against the metal door, sobbing. Someone had stolen her very identity. She didn't know that Caroline had taken it just after overhearing Mrs. Arinze and Dominic's desperate conversation about finding the mysterious woman with the silver bracelet. Caroline had been returning from an errand when she heard them discussing the bracelet as proof of identity, and she realized this could be her escape from poverty, and overheard their discussion while hidden by the door entrance. She quickly started monitoring Angela, following and watching her every move, waiting for the perfect moment to steal it. When she saw Angela remove it before washing dishes, Caroline's jealousy burned so fierce she slipped it into her pocket, her heart breaking as she committed the theft. Now Caroline saw her chance for escape. She studied the stolen beads, practiced her lies, and approached Dominic's mother with trembling hands. "Mom, I think I'm the one you're looking for," Caroline said, producing the bracelet. "I was walking past Mr. Dominic's office that night when I saw some suspicious men leaving. I went in and found him unconscious. I stayed with him to make sure he was safe, but I was scared, so I left quietly." Mrs. Arinze examined the bracelet. It was exactly as Dominic described. Her relief was overwhelming. Here was a presentable young woman, not too educated to be threatening, not too sophisticated to refuse their arrangement. "You saved my son," Mrs. Arinze said, tears in her eyes. "You're a godsend. What's your name, child?" "Caroline Kioma, Mom." "Caroline, you're going to be very important to this family. Very important indeed." Within days, Caroline was moved from the kitchen to a special assistant position. She received new clothes, training in etiquette, and most importantly, access to Dominic himself. Mrs. Arinze made it clear that Caroline was being groomed for something special. "Son," his mother told Dominic privately, "this girl Caroline is perfect for you. She's loyal, she's brave, and she's from a good background. The board loves the story. The CEO's future wife is a humble, heroic employee. It's perfect for our image." Dominic, still battling his confused memories and guilt, felt obligated to show gratitude to his supposed savior. He spent time with Caroline, thanking her repeatedly, trying to remember that night through the fog of drugs and confusion. Caroline played her role perfectly, dropping hints about finding him unconscious, about being scared but staying to protect him. Each lie came easier than the last, especially when she saw how it elevated her status. Angela watched from the shadows as Caroline transformed before her eyes. New dresses, confident posture, the respectful treatment from staff who once mocked her. Angela's heart shattered piece by piece as she realized her best friend had not only betrayed her, but stolen her very identity. The cruelest moment came when Angela passed Caroline in the hallway and whispered desperately, "Caro, that's my bracelet. That's my grandmother's bracelet." Caroline looked around nervously, then hissed back, "I don't know what you're talking about. This bracelet belongs to my family. Stop spreading lies or you'll lose your job." Angela felt the world spinning around her. The woman who had once promised to protect her at their mother's grave had stolen everything. Her identity, her truth, her chance at dignity. Angela stumbled away, her heart breaking with the realization that she was truly alone in the world. As rumors of Dominic and Caroline's impending engagement spread through the hotel, Angela could only watch in silent agony, knowing that her grandmother's blessing now rested on the wrist of her greatest betrayer. Angela's pain was silent but deep. She wanted to confront Caroline, to shout the truth, but each time she opened her mouth, the words caught in her throat. The shame and humiliation of her past mistakes held her back. She poured her energy into work and caring for her mother from afar, sending every spare naira home. She clung to her dignity, refusing to fight dirty or expose Caroline's lies. Meanwhile, Caroline used her new position to make Angela's life even harder. She spread lies among the staff, told management Angela was jealous, and found ways to turn others against her. The old bond of friendship was shattered, replaced by constant tension. Angela endured every fresh betrayal in silence, but inside, her hope was fading. Weeks later, Angela realized she was pregnant. The discovery hit her like a physical blow as she stared at the test in her trembling hands. The timing was unmistakable. This child had been conceived during that terrible night when she was drugged. She whispered, "No, no, no," to her reflection, tears streaming down her face. Her hands moved instinctively to her stomach as she realized her world had changed forever. At first, she tried to deny it, hiding the signs and refusing to admit the truth to herself. But as the weeks passed, her body changed. Fear set in. Fear of losing her job, of village disgrace, of raising a child alone in a hostile city. Desperate, she confided in Caroline, hoping for some shred of compassion from her old friend. But Caroline's response was cold and sharp. "You need to get rid of it," she said, eyes full of scorn. "You know what people will say. You'll ruin your life." Angela's hands shook as she listened, her heart breaking again. She refused to consider abortion, clinging to a love for her child and her family. But Caroline, quick to gossip, told Mrs. Obioma and spread the news throughout the hotel. Soon everyone knew. Angela became the center of new rumors and judgment. The hotel HR and Dominic's mother summoned her, warning that a child out of wedlock would destroy her future and the company's reputation. They urged her to fix her mistake. Angela listened quietly, but her mind was made up. She would keep her child no matter the consequences. She knew she was choosing a difficult path, but for once, the decision was hers. The days that followed were the hardest of Angela's life. Caroline and Mrs. Obioma plotted again, this time teaming up with a rogue security guard. They staged a car accident outside the hotel, hoping to scare or eliminate Angela. The crash left her badly injured, but once again Dominic stepped in, paying her hospital bills and staying by her side until she recovered. The attempt on her life, and the later attempt to poison her at work, finally opened Angela's eyes. She realized she could trust only herself and God. As Angela recovered in the hospital over the following 3 weeks, each day blending into the next as she fought not just physical pain, but the crushing weight of isolation, she received devastating news from her village. A sympathetic neighbor called to tell her that Mama Obi's health had collapsed. No one had truly cared for her since both girls left. The guilt was overwhelming. Angela wept alone, blaming herself for her mother's suffering, but also finding new determination. She promised through tears, "I will save you, Mama. I will make our family proud, no matter what it takes." In the chaos and shame that followed her hospital stay, when she returned to the hotel after being discharged, Angela rushed to her small locker to find something, anything that could give her comfort. She frantically searched for her grandmother's bracelet, having forgotten in her trauma that it had been stolen. The silver chain with blue beads that Mama Obi had pressed into her trembling hands before she left the village, whispering, "This will protect you, my child, and bring you safely home to me." Angela's hands shook as she emptied every corner of her locker, tears streaming down her face. "No, no, no," she whispered desperately. Then the painful memory flooded back. It had been stolen even before her accident. It was the only piece of home she had left, the only proof of her grandmother's love, the only connection to her identity. Caroline, who had been watching from the shadows, felt the cold weight of the stolen bracelet hidden in her own locker like a burning coal. "Forgive me, Angela," Caroline had whispered to the broken Angela from a distance. "I need this chance. I need to survive. Maybe if I become someone important, I can help you later. Maybe this is the only way for both of us to escape this hell." But even as Caroline tried to justify her betrayal, she knew she was destroying the last sacred bond between them. The bracelet wasn't just jewelry. It was Angela's inheritance, her protection, her grandmother's blessing wrapped around her wrist. And now, Caroline wore it like a lie, preparing to build her entire future on the theft of her best friend's most precious possession. When Angela returned to the hotel, she faced the ultimate humiliation. Caroline, drunk on power and desperate to hold on to her new status, publicly accused Angela in front of the entire staff. She called her a gold digger and tried to have her fired. Angela stood alone, the subject of ridicule and almost dismissed from her job. In her lowest moment, surrounded by jeers and betrayal, she found a new kind of strength. She stood tall, refusing to bow her head, determined to protect her dignity and her unborn child. With the staff divided and tension at its peak, Angela faced her tormentors, tears streaming down her face but her voice steady. "You can shame me, you can take everything from me, but you cannot destroy my hope." The moment that changed everything came during a busy afternoon shift. Angela was rushing to clean the executive floor when she tripped, sending cleaning supplies crashing to the ground. Dominic, hearing the commotion, rushed out of his office to help. As he knelt beside her, gathering scattered bottles, Angela rolled up her sleeves to clean the spilled liquid. That's when Dominic saw it, a distinctive crescent-shaped scar on Angela's left wrist, just below her pulse point. His breath caught in his throat as something deep in his mind stirred, like a door slowly creaking open in a dark room. For months he had lived with fragments, tiny pieces of that terrible night that floated in his consciousness like broken glass. A soft voice whispering comfort when he was afraid. Gentle hands that felt safe, not threatening. The scent of village soap mixed with tears. But the drugs had stolen the complete picture, leaving him with only emotions without faces, kindness without identity. Now, staring at that crescent-shaped scar, the fragments began to connect like stars, forming a constellation. His heart hammered as the memory surfaced, not clear and sharp, but soft and emotional, like remembering a dream. A woman's wrist beside his on the pillow, that exact same scar catching the moonlight from his office window. Her voice, thick with confused tears, asking, "How did this happen to us?" "Oh God," Dominic whispered, his hands shaking as the realization crashed over him. "It was you. You were there with me, scared and lost just like I was." The drugs hadn't given him perfect memories, but they couldn't steal the feeling of safety he'd found in her presence that night. His soul had recognized her gentleness even when his mind couldn't form clear thoughts. She hadn't seduced him or trapped him. She had been as vulnerable and confused as he was, two victims clinging to each other in the darkness. His heart began racing as fragmented memories of that night came flooding back. "Your wrist," Dominic whispered, his voice shaking. Angela quickly pulled her sleeve down, embarrassed. "It's nothing, sir. Just an old childhood accident." But Dominic's mind was reeling. He remembered asking that night through the drug-induced haze, "How did you get this scar?" And a soft voice answering, "I fell from a mango tree trying to pick fruit for my grandmother when I was 8. That evening, Dominic called Angela to his office. His hands trembled as he spoke. "Angela, I need to ask you something, and please, I need you to be honest with me. That scar on your wrist, how did you get it?" Angela's eyes filled with tears. I fell from a mango tree when I was small. I was trying to get fruit for my grandmother." Dominic's world tilted. Those were the exact words, the exact story from that foggy night. "Angela," he whispered, were you in my office the night of the party?" Angela broke down completely. "Sir, I was told you needed urgent cleaning. I was confused, dizzy. I don't remember everything clearly. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." Dominic felt his heart breaking for her, and for himself. "You were drugged too, weren't you? Just like me." Through her tears, Angela nodded. "I think so, sir. Caroline gave me a drink, and then everything became blurry." That night, Dominic couldn't sleep. He began investigating methodically, driven by a mix of guilt, anger, and growing understanding. He started with the hotel's security footage from that night. Hour by hour, he watched the party, studying every interaction. He saw Caroline approaching Angela with a drink, her nervous, guilty expression. He saw Angela becoming unsteady, confused. He witnessed Mrs. Obioma directing the disoriented Angela toward the elevator. Most damning of all, he spotted Marcus entering his office suite with a camera in the early morning hours. Next, Dominic reviewed the staff schedules and noticed irregularities. Caroline had been assigned to kitchen duty that night, but the cameras showed her moving freely through areas she shouldn't have accessed. Mrs. Obioma had left the party early, but appeared again near his office around midnight. The final piece came when Dominic, his heart heavy with rage and sorrow, confronted the hotel's medical staff. The nurse who had treated Angela after the cold room incident revealed something crucial. "Sir, when Miss Angela was brought in that night, I noticed something odd. She had residual traces of sedatives in her system, not enough to be dangerous, but definitely enough to cause confusion and memory loss. I documented it, but was told not to mention it." "Who told you not to mention it?" "Mrs. Obioma, sir. She said it would cause unnecessary scandal." Dominic's investigation intensified. He discovered that Caroline had requested a transfer to a different shift the day after the party. Suspicious timing. He found deleted text messages on the hotel's communication system between Caroline and Mrs. Obioma, discussing plans and opportunities. The most heartbreaking discovery came when Dominic traced the bracelet. He visited the village where both Angela and Caroline had grown up, speaking to elderly residents who remembered the families. "That bracelet," an old woman said, examining a photo, "that belonged to Angela's grandmother, Mama Obi. I remember when she gave it to the child before she left for Lagos. She said it would protect her and bring her home safely." Standing in that village, surrounded by people who remembered Angela as a kind, hard-working girl, Dominic felt the full weight of the injustice. Angela had been drugged, assaulted, robbed of her most precious possession, and then forced to lie about her pregnancy to protect him. When he returned to Lagos, Dominic had one more painful realization. He found Marcus's computer files, the photos from that night, stored and waiting to be used for blackmail. The images showed two unconscious, vulnerable people who had been victimized by others' greed and jealousy. Dominic sat in his office that night, staring at all the evidence he'd gathered. Security footage, medical reports, witness statements, the stolen bracelet's history, and the blackmail photos. The truth was undeniable. Angela was innocent. Caroline was a thief and liar, and he himself had been too blind to see it. But what broke his heart most was imagining Angela's silence through it all, carrying his child, enduring the shame alone, protecting his reputation while her own was destroyed. She had sacrificed everything to shield him from scandal, and he had unknowingly rewarded her betrayer. As dawn broke over Lagos, Dominic made his decision. The truth would come out, justice would be served, and Angela would finally receive the honor and respect she deserved. But first, he had to find the courage to face her and ask for forgiveness he wasn't sure he deserved. Meanwhile, Angela woke the next morning with her heart pounding and a sense of quiet dread lingering in her chest. The events of the previous days echoed in her mind. The public humiliation, the cold stares from staff, Caroline's cruel words, and the pain of nearly losing everything. But as sunlight streamed through her small window, something inside her felt different. The pain had not destroyed her. Instead, it had shaped her into someone stronger, someone who refused to bow any longer. She knew the truth was finally beginning to surface, and with it, a new chapter in her journey was about to begin. At work, the atmosphere was tense. Dominic's absence from the office was noticeable, and the usual clamor of hotel life seemed muted. Whispers followed Angela wherever she went, but she ignored them, focusing on her duties with determination. For the first time, she looked people in the eye, meeting their judgment head-on. The sense of shame she once carried so heavily began to lighten, replaced by a quiet dignity. 1 week later, exactly 1 year after Angela had left her village with nothing but hope and her grandmother's blessing, Dominic called a meeting in the hotel's main conference hall. The morning light streaming through the windows seemed to promise justice after so many months of darkness. Every staff member was present, the air thick with anticipation. Caroline stood beside Mrs. Obioma, looking confident but uneasy. Angela sat quietly in the back, clutching her bag and preparing herself for whatever would happen. Dominic addressed the staff, his voice steady and clear. He recounted the story of the missing bracelet, the security footage that showed Caroline taking it from Angela's locker, and the string of lies that had hurt not just him, but the entire hotel. He spoke of the staged car accident, the cruel bullying, and the false accusations Angela had faced. With each revelation, the room grew more silent, and eyes shifted uneasily toward Caroline and Mrs. Obioma. Then Dominic turned to Angela. "You have shown more strength and dignity than anyone here," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You were wronged, not just by those you called friends, but by all of us who failed to protect you. Today that ends." "But before we address the thefts and lies," Dominic continued, his voice growing harder, "we must deal with something even more sinister." He turned to Marcus, who had been sitting quietly in the back, believing himself safe. "Marcus, please step forward." Marcus's face drained of color, but he forced a confident smile. "Sir, I don't understand. You understand perfectly." Dominic's voice cut through the room like steel. "During my investigation, I discovered something that shocked me to my core. Not only were Angela and I drugged and victimized that night, but someone photographed our unconscious, vulnerable state for blackmail purposes." The room erupted in gasps and horrified murmurs. Angela felt the blood leave her face as the full scope of the violation became clear. Dominic held up a tablet showing Marcus's computer files. These photos were taken while two people lay unconscious and drugged. This wasn't just theft or lies. This was a planned assault, followed by an attempt at blackmail that could have destroyed both our lives. Marcus tried to run, but hotel security blocked his path. "You can't prove anything," he shouted desperately. "Those could be fake." "The metadata shows they were taken from your personal camera," Dominic replied coldly. "The police are already on their way. You'll face charges for conspiracy, blackmail, and participation in what amounts to assault." As Marcus was led away in handcuffs, his face crumpled with the weight of his crimes. "I needed the money," he cried out. "The board was going to fire me anyway. I was desperate." Angela watched through tears, finally understanding the full scope of what had been done to her. She hadn't just been drugged and violated, she had been photographed, turned into blackmail material, her most vulnerable moment captured for someone else's gain. Dominic turned next to Mrs. Obioma, whose confident demeanor was rapidly cracking. "Mrs. Obioma, your role in this conspiracy goes far beyond simple workplace bullying." He began listing her crimes methodically. "You coordinated the drugging. You directed Angela to my office while she was incapacitated. You covered up medical evidence. You orchestrated the theft accusation. You arranged for Angela to be locked in the freezer overnight. You helped plan the staged car accident that could have killed her." With each revelation, Mrs. Obioma's face grew paler. Staff members who had feared her for years began to see her for what she truly was. Not a strict supervisor, but a calculating predator who had nearly destroyed an innocent woman. "But perhaps worst of all," Dominic continued, "you manipulated a desperate young woman, Caroline, into betraying her closest friend. You preyed on her poverty and desperation, turning her into your weapon against Angela." Mrs. Obioma finally broke, her voice shrill with panic. "She was nobody, a village girl who thought she was better than us. She needed to be put in her place." "Angela was somebody's beloved granddaughter," Dominic replied quietly. "She was a woman trying to survive and care for her family. She was a human being who deserved basic dignity. Your hatred of her innocence and goodness says everything about your character and nothing about hers." As security escorted Mrs. Obioma away, she turned back with venom in her eyes. "You think you've won, village girl? You think this changes anything? People like you will always be beneath people like us." Angela stood up slowly, her voice steady despite her tears. "Mrs. Obioma, I forgive you. I hope someday you find peace with yourself, because the hatred you carry is destroying you more than it ever hurt me." The simple dignity of Angela's response left the entire room speechless. Even in her moment of triumph, she chose grace over revenge. Finally, all eyes turned to Caroline, who had been standing frozen in horror as the full scope of the conspiracy was revealed. Her face was streaked with tears, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Caroline, Dominic said gently, you were as much a victim as anyone else. Mrs. Obioma manipulated your desperation, your hunger, your fear, but the choices you made, stealing the bracelet, lying about saving me, betraying Angela, those were still your choices. Caroline collapsed into a chair, sobbing openly. Angela, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I broke my promise to my mother. I betrayed you when you needed me most. I became everything I swore I'd never be. Angela approached her slowly, kneeling beside Caroline's chair. Caro, look at me. Caroline raised her tear-stained face, expecting to see hatred or disgust. Instead, she saw the same gentle girl who had held her hand at her mother's grave years ago. I forgive you too, Angela whispered. I know you were desperate. I know you were scared. But forgiveness doesn't mean I can trust you again, and it doesn't erase the consequences of what you did. Caroline nodded through her sobs. I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but thank you. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it. As Caroline packed her belongings, she left a letter on Angela's desk. Angela, I know words can't undo what I did, but I need you to know every day I wore your grandmother's bracelet, it burned my wrist like fire. I knew it didn't belong to me. I knew I was living a lie. The worst part wasn't losing the job or the shame. It was looking in the mirror and seeing someone my mother wouldn't recognize. I'm going back to the village to care for sick relatives, to try to find the girl I used to be before jealousy poisoned my heart. I'll never forgive myself, but knowing you've forgiven me gives me hope that maybe someday I can be good again. Your grandmother's bracelet is in your locker. I never had the right to wear it. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. Caroline. Angela read the letter with tears streaming down her face. Despite everything, losing Caroline still felt like losing a sister, but she understood now that some betrayals cut too deep for relationships to survive, even when forgiveness flows freely. The staff watched this unfolding drama with a mixture of shock, shame, and awe. Many who had participated in Angela's torment now understood they had been pawns in a larger, more sinister game. One by one, they approached Angela, not just to apologize, but to thank her for her grace in the face of such cruelty. You could have destroyed us all with anger, one cleaner whispered. Instead, you're teaching us how to be better people. As the truth settled over the hotel like a cleansing rain, Angela felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Complete peace. The weight of secrets, lies, and undeserved shame finally lifted from her shoulders. She was free, not just from her tormentors, but from the prison of other people's opinions. Justice had been served, truth had prevailed, and Angela stood vindicated not just in the eyes of others, but in the depths of her own heart. Looking into Angela's weary but dignified eyes, Mrs. Arinza saw the strength it had taken to survive months of scandal and shame. Forgive me, my daughter, she whispered, using the Igbo term of endearment. I was wrong about everything. You are not the problem. You are the blessing we didn't recognize. Angela was moved by the unexpected transformation, and for the first time, she felt truly seen for who she was. After the confrontation, Dominic asked to speak with Angela alone. They met in the quiet garden behind the hotel, away from prying eyes and gossiping tongues. Dominic expressed his regret for not seeing through the lies sooner and thanked Angela for her integrity and courage. He explained that he wanted to make things right, not out of pity, but out of admiration and a growing sense of something deeper. Angela listened carefully, her heart pounding. She knew that everything was changing, but she was still cautious. She spoke honestly about her fears, her hopes for her mother's health, and her determination to build a better life for her child. Dominic listened, not as a boss, but as a partner, promising to support her no matter what the future held. In the days that followed, the news of Angela's vindication spread through the hotel and beyond. Her colleagues treated her with new respect, and many reached out to apologize for their past cruelty. Angela accepted their words, but she remained focused on her purpose: to bring her mother to Lagos, to ensure her child's future, and to create a life built on dignity and truth. As her confidence grew, so did her sense of self-worth. Angela began to see herself not just as a victim or a survivor, but as a leader. She used her new position to advocate for fairness and kindness among the hotel staff, determined to break the cycle of bullying that had nearly destroyed her. Her compassion and strength became an inspiration to others, and slowly, the culture of the hotel began to change. In the weeks following the revelation, Angela struggled to adjust to her new reality. The vindication felt surreal. After months of carrying shame and whispers, she now walked through the hotel with her head high. But healing wasn't instant. Some nights, she still woke from nightmares about the cold room, about Caroline's betrayal, about the fear of losing everything. The emotional scars ran deeper than she had realized. Dominic, understanding her fragility, approached their growing friendship with gentle patience. "Angela," he said one evening as they sat in the hotel garden, "I know trust doesn't come easily after what you've been through. I want you to know, I'm not going anywhere, not until you're ready." Angela felt tears prick her eyes at his kindness. "Sometimes I still can't believe it's real, that people know the truth now, that I'm not fighting alone anymore." "You were never meant to fight alone," Dominic replied softly. "I failed you in that, and I'll spend however long it takes making it right." As her confidence slowly returned, Angela's focus turned to her mother. The thought of Mama Obi's frail health back in the village filled her with urgency. She had been sending money, but it wasn't enough. Her grandmother needed proper medical care, a safe place to live, and most of all, family close by. One quiet Sunday morning, Angela sat in her small room, counting the money she had saved. It was finally enough to bring Mama Obi to Lagos. She called the village with trembling hands. "Mama, it's Angela. I'm coming to get you." The sob of relief on the other end of the line broke Angela's heart. "My child, my precious child, are you sure? Are you safe there?" "Yes, Mama, I'm safe now, and I want you here with me. We're going to be a real family again." When Angela shared her plans with Dominic, his eyes lit up with understanding. "Let me help, please. Let me send a proper car to bring her safely." "Sir, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking, I'm offering. Your grandmother raised the woman who protected me even when she was vulnerable. It's the least I can do." 2 months later, a date Angela would forever remember as the day her family became whole again after 14 months of separation. The day Mama Obi arrived changed everything. Standing at the bus station, Angela felt the weight of every lonely night, every tear shed in silence, every prayer whispered into the darkness, finally lifting from her shoulders, her heart pounding with nervous excitement. When the frail elderly woman stepped off the bus, supported by Dominic's driver, Angela ran to her like a child. "Mama, Mama, you're here!" They held each other and wept. Tears of reunion, of relief, of love that had survived separation and hardship. Mama Obi cupped Angela's face in her weathered hands. "My daughter, you look stronger, different, like you've found yourself." "I did, Mama. I found myself and I found my way back to you." As they settled into their new life together, Angela felt pieces of her heart healing that she didn't even know were broken. Having Mama Obi near, seeing her take her medicine properly, watching her smile again, hearing her gentle prayers at night, filled Angela with a peace she hadn't known since childhood. Dominic visited often, bringing groceries, helping with small repairs, and gradually becoming part of their small family circle. Even his mother started to drop by, sometimes offering practical advice, sometimes just sitting quietly with Mama Obi, as if trying to repair the past with simple acts of kindness. Mama Obi, with her wise eyes, watched him carefully. "That young man," she told Angela one evening, "he looks at you like you hung the moon. But more than that, he looks at you like he knows your worth." Angela blushed, her heart fluttering. "Mama, it's complicated. What happened between us?" "Child, I know what happened was terrible, but sometimes God uses our worst moments to bring us to our best destinations. Don't let fear of the past steal your future." One evening, as Angela tucked Mama Obi into bed and kissed her forehead, she realized something had fundamentally shifted inside her. She was no longer the frightened girl who had arrived in Lagos with nothing but desperate hope. She was a woman who had survived betrayal, protected those she loved, and emerged stronger. Dominic's feelings for Angela grew deeper with each passing day. He admired her resilience, her commitment to her mother, and her unwavering integrity. He saw in her not just someone to love, but someone to walk through life with as an equal. Few weeks later, as Angela's belly curved with new life and hope filled their small home, one evening after a long day at the hotel, he invited Angela and Mama Obi to dinner at the community hall. The gathering was simple: close friends, supportive staff, and family, but it felt monumental. During the meal, Dominic stood up and asked for everyone's attention. He turned to Angela, his voice trembling with emotion. "Angela, you have shown me the meaning of courage, love, and true dignity. Will you marry me, not as a rescue, but as my partner, my equal, and the woman I respect above all others?" The room was silent. Angela felt her heart leap, her eyes filling with tears. She looked at her mother, who nodded with a smile. Angela took Dominic's hand and said yes. The applause was loud, but the quiet look of relief and joy between Angela and Mama Obi was what mattered most. 2 months later, exactly 18 months after Angela had first arrived in Lagos as a broken village girl, preparations for the wedding were simple but meaningful. The community hall was decorated with colorful fabric and flowers, and the guests wore their best clothes. Angela wore a beautiful, modest dress, nothing extravagant, but it made her feel radiant. Dominic's mother gave her a special necklace, a gesture of acceptance that moved Angela deeply. The ceremony was filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt words. When Dominic and Angela exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the wedding, life settled into a new rhythm. Angela's days were busy with work at the hotel, caring for her mother, and planning for the arrival of her child. She was promoted to a senior management position, where her voice and ideas were respected. Her story inspired others in the hotel and beyond. Young women from the village reached out to her, asking for advice, calling her Auntie Angela, and looking up to her as a symbol of hope. Mama Obi's health improved steadily, thanks to regular medical care and the warmth of family. She often sat with Angela in the evenings, sharing stories, giving gentle advice, or simply enjoying the peace that had come at last. Angela felt a deep sense of fulfillment every time she saw her mother smile, every time she heard laughter in their home. Dominic and Angela faced challenges, but they faced them together. When rumors and gossip threatened to creep back, they held their heads high, refusing to let the past dictate their happiness. Angela's sense of self-worth had grown. She knew now that she deserved respect and love. She was no longer the frightened village girl who had arrived in Lagos full of uncertainty. She was a wife, a soon-to-be mother, a leader, and above all, a survivor. The journey had not been easy. Angela remembered the nights she cried herself to sleep, the hunger, the loneliness, the betrayals by those she once trusted. But she also remembered the moments of unexpected kindness, the people who had stood by her, and the strength she found in herself when she thought she had none left. She had walked through fire and come out changed, her faith in herself restored. As Angela prepared for the birth of her child, she found herself reflecting on the long road she had traveled. She promised herself she would raise her child with love, strength, and dignity. She would teach them to never give up, no matter the obstacles, and to always believe in the possibility of a better tomorrow. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Angela, Dominic, and Mama Obi gathered in their living room. The room was filled with gentle laughter, the smell of home-cooked food, and the peaceful sound of music playing softly in the background. Angela closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the feeling of safety and belonging. She was surrounded by the family she had fought so hard to protect, and the love that had grown from pain and perseverance. In the final moments, Angela stood on the balcony, looking out over the city lights. She thought about all she had endured and all she had gained. Her journey from shame to honor was now complete. She whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, not just for herself, but for every woman who dreamed of a better life, who struggled, and who refused to let the world define her worth. Angela smiled, a gentle, hopeful smile that promised a future filled with light, laughter, and unbreakable love. Her story was no longer just about survival. It was about triumph, transformation, and the promise of new beginnings.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story and its message, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss out on more great stories like this one.